Welcome back to Battleship Systems. Today we're talking about the special communities and the companies that work together to build the battleships you see today. Please check the errata page in the description. There were two departments of the Navy that were responsible for making warships. The Bureau of Ordnance was responsible for making the guns, major gun parts, and the armor plating. The Bureau of Ships, formerly known as the Bureau of Construction and Repair, was responsible for constructing the actual ships. Let's start with the Bureau of Ordnance. South of Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. is the Washington Navy Yard. This was a government-operated establishment that housed the Naval Gun Factory. They were responsible for foundries, factories, and forges that constructed the 16-inch guns, 14-inch guns, and 5-inch guns you see on battleships today. The part that made battleships invincible, the armor, and the major parts of the guns were contracted out to commercial companies. For this, the Navy chose a little town of Bethlehem in Pennsylvania. Bethlehem Steel was the single largest supplier of steel for the U.S. in World War II, employing over some 31,000 townsfolk. They performed their own research and development into special treatment steel and face-hardened armor. That wasn't the only town doing this, though. Homestead, Pennsylvania was home to Carnegie Illinois Steel Corporation. Carnegie employed over 15,000 townsfolk around this time. Finally, there was a place called Nicetown in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, home to the Midvale Steel and Ordnance Company. By the time the war started, Midvale had less than 1,000 workers, but they were still able to turn out armor plates for almost every battleship. The materials for some of the large guns were also purchased from Midvale. My grandpa worked at a steel mill in Cleveland, Ohio, from '49 to the late '70s. It employed over 9,000 workers from all over Ohio. These kind of jobs are truly the last jobs you'll ever need, and he was able to truly live the American dream through working there. So there's the 3 steel mills, all in Pennsylvania. Now it's time for the shipyards. In the 30s and 40s, when you wanted to build a battleship, you would have to construct the hull from the bottom up in a shipyard. This was done in a building way. But before the ship is complete, you would need to get it in the water and take it to dry dock to add some of the things like rudders and propellers. So how do you get your ship out of the building way? You slide it out. The building ways also functioned as slipways. Let's proceed by hull number, so we'll be starting with BB-35 Battleship Texas. This ship was built in 1912 in a town called Newport News, Virginia. During World War II, the battleship Indiana was also built here. Newport News was essentially a company town employing more than 31,000 people during World War II. The shipyard is still making ships to this day. Now on to the battleships North Carolina, Iowa, and Missouri. These were all built in a town called Brooklyn in New York, home of the New York Navy Yard, also known as the Brooklyn Navy Yard. At the height of World War II, there were approximately 75,000 townsfolk employed in the yard. However, in 1964, Secretary Robert McNamara announced its closure. Since then, many commercial developments have appeared on the property. Now for the battleships Washington, New Jersey, and Wisconsin. The Navy awarded these contracts to a shipyard in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, known as the Philadelphia Naval Shipyard. During the critical shipbuilding period in World War II, this shipyard employed over 40,000 townsfolk. The yard was closed and sold to the city in '95, and since then many commercial buildings and other companies have taken over the area. We're going to skip New York Shipbuilding Corporation because the South Dakota is no longer around. So now on to the Massachusetts. The battleship Massachusetts was built in the town of Quincy, Massachusetts, home of Bethlehem Steel's Four River Shipyard. So not only did Bethlehem Steel make the armament, but they also constructed battleships. At the height of World War II, there were over 23,000 townsfolk employed here. In 1964, the yard was purchased by General Dynamics and eventually closed in 1986. Now on to the battleship Alabama. This ship was constructed in Portsmouth, Virginia, home of the Norfolk Naval Shipyard. This is the largest shipyard owned by the Navy, and in World War II it employed some 43,000 townsfolk. It's also home to Lambert's Point Deperming Station, which is used to reduce the permanent magnetization of all Navy ships. Norfolk still operates the yard to this day. So there are the shipyards. If it was still 1940 and the Navy was still making battleships, would you want to work at a shipyard? Let me know in the comment section below, and don't forget to like and subscribe. In lieu of donations to me, please consider donating to a battleship museum like the Battleship Alabama. There's a link in the description that'll bring you to the USS Alabama Battleship Foundation website where you can donate to the nonprofit organization. Don't forget to put Battleship Alabama in the comments of your donation so your money will go to the ship. Thanks for watching.